Hi, I'm Howard Snader, and I'm the owner of the Snader Law Group here in Phoenix, Arizona. For more than 30 years, as a board-certified expert in criminal law, I've been helping thousands of clients fend off criminal charges. And today, I just wanted to start out with a real quick, this is how you need to deal with probation. So at the end of your case, with the assumption you're like the majority of folks going through the system, you're going to end up with a conviction of some sort. And in most cases, you're going to have probation of some sort. If it's a misdemeanor, in many cases, that probation is what we call summary probation. There's no probation officer. You just need to comply with the sentencing orders of the court. But for purposes of this video, I just want to talk about felony probation or supervised probation and what that really means. Once you're sentenced, the judge will normally order you to appear before the Department of Probation. And at that time, they will issue you your directives, your requirements to get through probation. When that happens, number one, it is in writing. So make sure you go through it with your probation officer. If you have any questions, ask your probation officer or your PO. And if you have any questions beyond that, ask your attorney. When dealing with probation, there are three basic things I want to go through today. Number one is, no matter what you think of probation, you're always going to be wrong. If they tell you to do something and you think you've done it and they don't have proof of it, you're wrong. Keep that in mind. You have to prove that you're right every single time. The only way you do that is by collecting your information, keeping it organized. So in the event there is an issue, you've got the information readily available. I recommend you keep a logbook. Literally an old paper, pencil, logbook, spiral notebook, and it should be documenting every single contact you have with probation. You list the name of the date, who you spoke with, what the content of that conversation was. It's got to be there. If it's not on paper, pencil, then keep it in your phone on the logbook function on your or note function on your phone, but keep a written record of every communication you have with probation. They're keeping a record on you. You need to keep a record on them. When you go to probation, you may be asking them to, can you do something? Can you go out of town? Can you reschedule a counseling meeting? Just something that the directives don't have clearly put in place or that you need to change. And when you make that request, a lot of times now it's by email, could even be by text message. Hey, can I reschedule my counseling session? Probation officer may say yes. Where people really get messed up is that they don't confirm that information. When you ask any question of your probation officer, you should be asking it in such a way that you can write down in your logbook, spoke to my probation officer. They said I could do this, or they said I could not do this. Then you got to follow that up with an email, a text message, snail mail, something in writing that says, hey, thanks for talking to me. Based on our conversation, I understand I'm allowed to do X, whatever it was you asked. If your understanding is wrong, please let me know right away. If they deny a reasonable request, hey, thanks for talking to me. Based on our conversation, I understand I'm not allowed to do something. I will comply with that order, but please tell me why. Why was it denied? You have to ask the why question. If you ask the why question, they have to give you a response. In giving that response, they're going to tell you how to cure the issue. If you cure the issue, they should now permit you to do whatever it is you wanted to do. Now, it also creates a record on their end, and it gives you the opportunity to go back to the judge and say, hey, they keep denying this request. This request is reasonable. And the judge can at that point step in and change it, or at least give you the argument to go before the judge and ask the probation department at that point in court, why aren't you giving them that relief? I've seen it happen, but it only works when my clients have done a really good job documenting the conversations they've had. The other thing I would tell you to do when you go to probation, this is number 2, is make sure you've copied all your court-related documents. So everything from your change of plea, or if you went to trial and were subsequently convicted, the paperwork regarding your sentence. It should be the sentencing documents, your plea agreement if there was one, the pre-sentence report, your probation directives, and any written correspondence you have with probation until the end of your case. The originals go wherever your original documents go. A copy goes in a Ziploc bag with your important papers for the rest of your life, literally. And I say that because even after you're off probation, until you are physically holding that order of discharge, until that order is there in your hands, you're on probation. And 5 years after you're terminated from probation, you get pulled over for a traffic ticket. They say you have a warrant for your arrest for a probation violation. It could be a computer glitch. You never know. But if you have that paperwork in your car, then you can at least take that down, show the officer. It may prevent you from being arrested. Or in the event that you are arrested, you can take it into the court and the judge will take a look at that. It may make the difference between you spending the night in jail or not. So first thing, make sure you keep accurate records of everything that takes place while you're on probation. Follow that up with written correspondence to confirm everything a probation officer tells you. Number two, make sure you copy all of your documents. Keep the originals wherever you keep your originals. Keep a complete set of documents in your car, Ziploc gallon bag, in with your spare tire. Hopefully you never need it. The last thing I'm going to tell you is just a real cautious note. In many cases, there are fines or fees that go along with a sentence. Technically, we're not a society that has a debtor's prison. You and I both know that's not necessarily the case. So what happens is you have a fine and you can't pay it and you're on a payment plan. And I have clients that it's a tough month and they pay zero. That's where you're going to get into problems. So if you have a certain dollar amount you have to make, and for some reason you can't make that full payment, pay something. And when probation says, why didn't you pay the full amount? You can say, I paid what I had. So again, it's part of your record keeping. If a fine or restitution is really a good chunk of your sentence, keep accurate records of your financials. You do that a couple different ways. Every receipt for every purchase you make, I don't care if it's a slushie at Circle K, you keep a copy of the receipt. Every single debit, you keep a copy of the receipt. Deposits are easy because that's usually your paycheck, whatever other income you might have. It's just a handful of things. It's more the expenses. And they can only punish you, give you punitive sanctions, send you back to jail if you're able to pay and you're avoiding any payments. So if you can show them you had a tough week or tough month because your receipts show this is my outgoing dollars, that will save you from going into jail. But again, it's your record keeping that's important. So pay something, keep accurate records of your receipts. Depending upon the number of receipts you have, keep them in weekly envelopes or keep them in monthly envelopes, because any violation is going to say, hey, you didn't do this from this period of time to another period of time. So you have the envelopes from that period of time. You can say, this is my income. This is what I paid. That's a reasonable amount. They're not going to revoke your probation for that. I hope those 3-4 things I've talked about are going to be really helpful for you moving forward on probation. At the end of probation, you'll get an order of discharge. And once you do that, hopefully your matter is one that can be set aside. And the law is going to be changing in December of 22, moving into 23, that more things will be open to be expunged. You also need to have your rights reinstated if it was a felony or a misdemeanor domestic violence matter where your gun rights were taken away. You got to have your rights reinstated. So there are some other post-conviction matters, but it all begins with you coming off probation successfully. I hope this was helpful. If you do have any questions, please give me a call. I'm Howard Snader at the Snader Law Group, 602-883-2940. I'll be ready to help. Thank you.